seen him come out of the tomb. We can't witness to that. The only thing that we can really experience or talk about or be a witness to is what God's done in my life or what I've seen him do in somebody else's life. You agree with that? You ever thought about that? Let's take it a different direction. How many of you have ever gone to court and had to be a witness? Am I the only one here? You did too? Okay. Well, okay. Several of us. Okay. It is not a comfortable feeling. Do you agree with that? It is not easy to stand there or to sit, right next to the judge and have to give a testimony because I'm thinking, did I really see that? Is this the way? I think that this is real. This is exactly what I remember. Well, what if I made a mistake? I've done it several times. Never a comfortable feeling. And yet, I see that it was powerful. Once it was for a murder. Once it was for someone who attacked children in the day school in the church that I worked at. Threw bricks through the window at the kids. Wrote stuff on the front doors of the church. Crazy guy lived next door to me. That made it worse. We're told about this man Cleopas, or however you want to say his name. He and an unnamed friend. They're walking from Jerusalem, which is high up on a hill, and they are walking down to Emmaus. And Emmaus is some distance away. It's a rocky road. There's really no road to speak of. They're just on the way to Emmaus, which is, it's 6-7 miles away. So it's going to take them a little while. And as they're walking and trying to make sense of the crucifixion, because how does it make sense that he did all of these good things for people and then Jesus had the people turn on him and they crucified him? They're cheering at his death. They're laughing at him while he hangs on the cross. How does that make sense? As they're talking about it together, Jesus comes to them, joins them in the walk, and they convey to him, this is what's happened. Are you the only person that doesn't know about this? And so they tell him, and they express to him, and really say in so many words, their hopes are dashed. In their words, we were hoping that he was the one who could save us. I thought about that this week. I was in Ackworth, and I was driving on Route 41, okay? And I happened to get stopped at a light, and I noticed off on the side of the road, there are a couple of crosses, and they had balloons on them, and some flowers down at the base of the crosses, and some teddy bears that were there. And I thought to myself, oh, there's somebody that's, they took the time. These crosses didn't look new. The balloons were kind of, like faded, but the flowers were new. The teddy bears looked pretty ratty. They'd been out in the rain. But someone was evidently paying attention to it from time to time and bringing new balloons or bringing new teddy bears or flowers. And I thought to myself, there's somebody, that either lost a daughter or somebody young or a child maybe. I don't know. But I thought about how grieving some people are and how many there are. Whether it is people that have lost a child in an accident like that, people that have gotten sick or have a loved one that got sick recently, or someone that died in the family, Or, you think just people, how distressed some people are about, how many shootings there have been and how it's been in the news. And it's constant and it's a barrage. And every day I just get tired of it. I don't know about the rest of you. But it wears me down. And I think about how they're similar in a way to these two men who are saying, we had hoped he was the one who could save us. And I think about how many people wish that someone could just save us from the insanity, or someone could save us from the bad dream of the bad diagnosis, or someone could save us from the misery of what some families deal with. What was going on in the gospel is, for me, very relatable today. The Old Testament prophet, Isaiah, took some time, this is 700 years before Jesus, and he said, God will remove the veil that covers all people. The veil being something that, is in front of them, something that distorts their vision, and the veil particularly is about death, and how it distorts life, and how it obscures our view of life, and how it darkens even brightest days. And there are a lot of people that are really bothered by death. I mean, it's always there, and it happens to everybody eventually. But it's disturbing to think about it, so we don't talk about it. We don't like to talk about it. We don't like to talk about insurance. We don't want to afford it. We don't like to talk about anything about it, really. It's one of those dark things that we don't want to think about. God will remove that veil that covers all people. And the people clung to that. They were clinging to it for all these hundreds of years, hoping that God would take that away, and that dismal kind of thinking that, what's going to happen to us after we live? Who's going to remember us? What's going to happen next? I think about that, how, in contrast, when we're children, how excited we are, and how everything's new, and how easy it is to believe that as we grow older, how disillusioned people can become. And some people have been through some very difficult times, and how life can wear some people down. Jesus breaks into this conversation with these two men, and he explains that the Christ had to come and die. He had to suffer and die and be raised to new life, he says. And effectively he says, although it doesn't say it in this text, I am the resurrection and the life. I am the one you've been hoping for. I am, he's relating himself to God, I am with you. I'm walking with you. I'm going through the same thing. I've suffered the same things. I grieve with you. I've mourned with you. I've helped you. I've hurt for you. I've lost loved ones like Lazarus and others. He knows exactly what we feel, and yet I'm with you. And still their eyes are not open. They can't see him. It just doesn't compute that he, Jesus, is with them. Not until they invite him back to the house, they have something to eat. He blesses some bread, and when he's talking about that, he blesses the bread, and he breaks it, and then it dawns on them, this is Jesus who has broken the bread before. And they realize it is him, and then they say, after he's gone, didn't our hearts burn within us when he was talking to us on the road? Didn't something happen? Wasn't this something special? And at that very moment, they get up. At that hour, they go to the others back in Jerusalem. They have to walk back up the hill, and that's no small effort. They find the others, and they tell them, he's with us. We saw him. And the others are relating, yeah, we know. Some of us were there this morning. He wasn't in the tomb. We saw the angels. And they said, yes, but we saw him. We had him sit at our house. And that message is for you and me. That is the connection here. That he comes to be with us at this breaking of bread. It may be easy to, take off this veil here that covers the bread, because you can't see it now. To take it off and still not recognize that Jesus is he's under there, he's with us. When we take that and we believing, trusting God, that he's going to give us forgiveness, that he's going to live within us, that the Spirit of God is going to help us day to day. This is good stuff. That's why we come here week to week. That's why I go to church week to week, to be reminded, to be encouraged, to be hopeful. He comes to be with me in my fears. He comes to be with you in your concerns and your heartaches, and we all have them. But some people it's hard to get through. You ever find that? There's some people hard to get through to? So they have to be reminded or told in some different ways. There was a man in my church years ago. His name was, everybody called him Bub. Even though he wasn't from the South, he was from the North, but they still called him Bub. But anyway, he was an elder in the church, and he was just a great guy, he and his wife. And he was an elder, and he was very active in the church over the years, and he was a good friend to me and my wife. And at any rate, he had a neighbor that lived next door, and his neighbor was not a person who went to church, didn't believe in God, didn't want anything to do with God. And Bud would tell me that he had been inviting this man to church. He said the problem is he's the type of guy he's not real friendly. He's not very neighborly. He takes my tools and he doesn't bring them back. He doesn't even say thank you when I loan them to him. He said, but I keep working. He said, am I doing the right thing? I said, yeah, keep doing it. He said, I've been doing this for a long time, mind you. I've been doing this for 10 years. I've been telling him and inviting him to church, and I've been praying for him. And I don't see anything happening, and I'm not sure that God's working here. I said, but you just never know what's going on underneath. He kept praying, he kept talking to his neighbor, he kept inviting him to church. Nothing, got nothing. Until one day when the man who had a daughter and a son, but the daughter went in for elective surgery and died on the table. She was 26 years old. For elective surgery, mind you. And he and his wife were crushed. How could that happen? Now, it wasn't like suddenly he was overwhelmed with, God's going to take her. He didn't. He was despondent. He was so angry. If there is a God, how could God let something like that happen? But I'm here to tell you that within a span of 3 weeks, that man, after he buried his daughter, he and his wife were open to listening to, where is God? Is God here? Can God be with us? He went from that place to wanting to be baptized, to wanting to hear more about God, to wanting to know about why do people go to church, to know about, is there really God active in the world? Did Jesus really raise from the dead? All of that within a span of a few weeks, and he was baptized, and this man, I tell you, he became very active in the church. He was so neat to be around because his life was entirely different. But it took 10 years of someone inviting him, praying for him, encouraging him, even though he wasn't open to hearing about church or hearing about God. 10 years of somebody being patient and sharing their faith. Then at the right time, when he was ready, then God worked in his heart. So here's a question for you. Do you know anybody like that? You know, are there people in your life who are like these disciples or like the guy I just explained, who don't know about God, who you know, they don't go to church very often. They may not believe anything. Do you know anybody like that? Have you ever shared your faith with somebody like that? Have you ever been praying for somebody like that? Or did you only like a few times and then kind of give up because, you know, I didn't see anything happen? I'm encouraging you to continue to faithfully pray for people like that. Whether it is a relative of yours, or a neighbor of yours, or a friend that you've known some years past, or someone that is an acquaintance that you run into from time to time, perhaps you're the person that can be the means by which God's Spirit comes to somebody else and creates faith. That's not your job. Your job is just to share your faith. Your job is just to be the witness. Your job is to say, this is what's happened in my life. Your job is simply to witness, how has Jesus been effective in my personal life? Now, I can tell you, I've had my experiences where God worked out of some very difficult circumstance, worked out something very good. How He took from real sickness to restored health. How God's worked in my wife's life. How the Lord's worked in other people's lives during my ministry. It brings me back to the psalm that was read a little earlier, where it says, glorify the Lord with me. Let's exalt His name together. This is a personal statement. I sought the Lord. I prayed to God. Yeah, it's like me personally, like this writer of the Psalms. And God answered me. He delivered me from my fears. I've had some. You think just because I wear the robe I don't have fears. You're wrong about that. Or that I don't have doubts just because I get to put on, that. No, everybody deals with their things. I've had my questions as well. But the Lord has come to me. The Lord's helped me. And I thank God for that. And I thank God for the people who prayed for me and the people that have encouraged me. Which brings me back to the crosses that were on the side of the road. And the balloons and the teddy bears and